Welcome back to our workshop. I've got a pie crust table here a customer dropped off, and it's got a very loose base on it. It's got a few broken parts. Now this might seem like an intimidating project, but it only takes a few tools and it takes some knowledge. I'm going to show you step by step how I go through this to give you the knowledge to tackle a project like this.
As a furniture repair business, we're opening the doors to our workshop to show you the tools and techniques to repair furniture.
What I need to do is take that apart, repair it, and put it back together so I can get this chair in working order.
We give you tips to make your repair projects easier. Let's get into the workshop and start fixing furniture.
This customer did the right thing and kept all the broken pieces of wood that came off of this piece and put them in a bag. That way, this can be assembled back together again. It's much more difficult if you have to put new pieces of wood into a piece of furniture. I'll stand this upside down and we'll start taking it apart. With this turned upside down, you can see really how loose these legs are. So these joints need to be re-glued, and I need to take the apron off here. It's held on by 2 screws. Take the apron off first, then we can get to these joints. Up in this section here, there's a couple of pieces that are broken off where the stretcher is in between here, and there's also a broken dowel, I think, over here. So we'll need to address that as well. The key to doing this is making sure you label all your parts so you know exactly where they go when you put it back together. Now I can safely take this apart and know exactly where everything needs to go. Let's see if this is loose here. Well, it's a little tight. These ones are a little tight too, so I'll work on taking the apron off next. With these away, I can just take this apart and I'll loosen these joints one at a time. There's one. Okay, there's 2. These are just twisting apart. So what happens with glue over time, it does break down, and this is an example of that. Just everything's loose and it just needs to be re-glued. It's a fairly simple process with a few tricks. So I'll just work my way around the table and pull all these things apart, and then where there's broken parts like this, I'll set them aside for repair. Here's another one here, and there's one more up here. I'll get to that in just a sec. This is coming apart really easily just because of the wear. With everything apart here, now it's time to glue in these small pieces. This one goes in here, this one goes here, and then there's one for up front. So I'll glue these in one at a time. I'm going to use PVA glue for these. You can see on the back of my bench here, I've got a lot of different glues. These are PVA glues, I've got a fish glue, a couple of high glue bottles, polyurethane, epoxy, and some CA glue. You need to use the right glue for the job. I've got a video, I'll leave a link in the video description, that teaches you what to use for this. But I'm using PVA glue for this. It's the right tool for the job. To glue parts properly, you need a couple of different things. One is enough glue. It needs to be spread on both surfaces, and you need to make sure you've got clamping pressure. Without clamping pressure, this won't make a solid bond. So spread this with a brush to make sure I've got good glue coverage on the whole part, because if you don't get glue on everything, you're not going to get a good solid bond. And then you want to make sure you put it on the other part as well. There's a bit of a debate of whether you should be putting glue on both sides or not, and I err on the side of caution. If you glue starve a joint, you're not going to get it to work. So a little bit of glue squeeze out is not a bad thing, and you'll see here as I put a clamp on, we'll get a little bit of glue squish out. I can probably do it with my finger. Yeah, you can see. You want to make sure you get enough glue in that seam. So now what I'll do is put a clamp across the corner here. And as I mentioned before, glue won't work without clamping pressure. And again, you can see glue squeeze out here happening. That's exactly what we want to see. Now I just take a little bit of clean water, put it on a rag, and then clean up that glue. It's a lot easier to scrub this off when it's wet than after it's dry. It'll just save you some work. That's one down, now two more to go. If you're looking for help on your projects, I offer one-on-one sessions over Zoom. Just follow the link in the video description and you can find out more about what we call our advice sessions. So put one clamp on this surface here, another clamp on this surface here. We should have some glue squeeze out, which we do. Make sure the surfaces are smooth and lined up, and we're good to go. So the glue's dried on these pieces overnight, so I can take the clamps off. And the next step is to work on the broken dowels. There's a broken dowel here, and there's another one here, so I need to pull those out. We've just reached 50,000 subscribers, halfway to our goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. Thanks for your support, and if we can get to that goal, I'm going to do a detailed walkthrough of this workshop and show you all the nooks and crannies, the tools, the jigs, everything about how I do the work in this workshop. So please help us get there and share this channel with others. I'm going to drill a hole here, put a screw in there, and attempt to pull that out. I find about 70% of the time this works, and it's a much faster way of taking broken dowels out than having to drill them out like this. I'll put this in the vise so it's nice and secure. Then I drill a pilot hole here with a drill bit that's just the width of the shaft of the screw. Now, because this is broken off in a different way here, I don't have a smooth surface, so I'm using the drill on an angle to get to the center of the hole, and then I'll go down to the bottom of the hole. So you can see there, I'm now in the center. So I'm going to go down until I feel a release. That'll be the bottom of the dowel. You hear that clunk? That was the bottom of the dowel getting down to the bottom of the mortise. So that tells me I've got a hole all the way through, and now I can drive in a screw. Now if I put the drill bit in, I can measure how deep this is. So I'll pull that out. So I've got about an inch, and I've got an 1.5 inch screw here. So basically I'm going to be putting this in almost all the way to the top of the threads. You don't want the screw to go into the piece at the bottom of the mortise, so I'd be best probably about half that distance, 3/4 of an inch. You want enough of the threads that they're going to get a good grip on this dowel. I use the claw of the hammer to pull it out, and I'll put a scrap piece of wood here to protect the work, and it should just pull out. And if you take a look at the dowel here, you can see we have a screw just protruding at the bottom, but it didn't go to the bottom of the mortise, so that's a perfect way to extract a dowel. I can now put a replacement dowel pin in, but I need to make sure I clean out the mortises and the dowels so that I'm ready for the glue up. Now before I clean these off, I want to make sure there aren't any loose dowels. I use a pair of fencing pliers because they grip really well, but they don't compress the fiber, so I'll just grab it lightly and see if it's got any wiggle to it. I'll check each of these to make sure they're not going to pull out. That way I know I'm going to have a good, strong glue bond whenever we've got these pieces together. Now, it's very common on the long grain like this that this doesn't come loose. But if I grab another leg here, this is the grains running this way and the dowel's going across. So these dowels typically that go in that situation, So if I grab hold here and give it a bit of a twist, you can see it's loose. So if I pull that out, there. So if I don't go through and check all these, this could end up becoming a loose joint very quickly because I haven't glued this joint. This was a loose dowel. It was hard to see, but it's important to check these to make sure you get everything nice and tight when everything's assembled again. On these tenons and on these dowels here, I need to take off the old glue. You can see there's excess stuff here hanging on the end. And on the surface here, wood glue only sticks to wood, not to other old glue. So I need to take that off and make sure it's nice and clean for the glue up. I prefer to use a file for something like this, but if you don't have a file, you can use sandpaper. 120 grit is what you'll need, and you rub that all around. The key to this is making sure you don't wear down the wood. You just want enough to take the glue off. Otherwise, you're going to loosen up that joint and cause problems. For the mortises or the holes, what I do is take a drill bit the same size as the hole and run it backwards first. The reason I want it to go backwards is if I go forwards, I could change the angle of that hole, and that will cause problems with the furniture. So backwards, run it to the bottom of the hole, and then forwards. I'll clean off the rest of the parts, and then we'll get to the glue up. All the parts are prepped now, so what I need to do is line them up and get them ready for the glue. You've only got about 15 minutes for glue when you're doing a glue up. So you need to make sure you've got everything together in the right spot. So here, again, I've labeled them BC, BC, so that one goes here. This one is AB, so AB, it goes here. So by laying these all out ahead of time, I no longer have to guess and scramble as to where to put pieces. So this one is AB to BC. So it's going here, this one's going here, and this one goes in between. Okay, so I'm going to start by working at A, work my way around here, and then what I'll do is I'll put these in between the legs after I've got the base here and these legs sticking up. I'm using hide glue for this. This is an antique, so you want to use hide glue because it's the only glue that's reversible in the event you need to take something apart because it broke. And the technique I use is I use the back of an artist brush to go inside that mortise and spread the glue around. That way I make sure I've got all that surface coated so it's going to hold well. And I didn't get to the back of this side, so I'll do that. So this one's glued. I'll start then here on the tenons. So I'm going to glue both sides of this one, and I use the business end of the brush to coat the full surface with the hide glue. So with both sides covered in glue, now put them together, and I'll work my way around the table, doing the exact same thing on every leg. Okay, so now we're onto the stretchers here. So just a bit of glue here, here, now got the dowel that I need to coat as well. One thing you'll find is with hide glue, everything becomes slipperier, so it's just easier to put things together. Oh, I forgot the mortise in the middle. So we'll do this one here here. I did get a little bit of glue on the wood piece here, but hide glue is great because it cleans up with just a little bit of water and you're good to go. And yes, I do put my paintbrush in between my teeth. It's the easiest way I can hang on to it when I'm doing glue ups. I also put it on the corner of my bench, like this, so that I don't get either of the ends on anything. So here, the labeling is important. Stretch these apart, bring them back together again, and now I can clamp it. Okay, I'll put clamps across those, but first what I want to do is screw these down. Now, you might be tempted to use an impact driver because it's fast. I don't recommend that. Impact drivers can be very powerful. And the last thing you want to do is drive a screw through a tabletop. So I can actually see the holes under here where the screws go. So I'll just line those up. I did have it lined up before I put the screw in. Right there. And by using a screwdriver, what you can do is feel the tension and feel when that starts to squeeze down. That way you're not over tightening. Okay, so this one's down. I'll go around this perimeter here, get those done, and then we'll clamp up the rest. Okay, with all the screws in, what I can do now is focus on clamping up here. The challenge with this is how to clamp it properly. The dowels on these are squeezed in here, so I need to provide clamping pressure this way. So I can put a clamp on here. Now what that's doing is it's skewing this. So I need an equal amount of pressure here. So I'll grab another clamp, put it on here. Now these are delicate parts, so I can't clamp too much pressure on them. But you do need some pressure for that glue to work properly. Okay, that seems nice and stable. We're good to go.
Be sure to go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter for links to new videos, workshop tips, and more. Now back to fixing furniture.
So the glue's all set here. I can take the clamps off, take the stickers off, and then as a business, one of the most important parts for me is putting my business information on repairs that I do, and that helps generate repeat business as well as references from other people. So the customer can now refer to my business information the next time they need some help with their furniture. So there you go. That's a level 2 woodworking repair. So it's taking it apart and dealing with those broken pieces of wood to put them back together again to get the piece back together in working order. Now, this is a skill builder for getting to the next level, which is level 3, where you're actually patching in pieces of wood to replace pieces that are broken. And I've got more videos on that. I'll leave some in the video description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please share it with others. If you haven't subscribed yet, click over here and click on that bell icon. You'll get notified every time we publish a video. Thanks for watching Fixing Furniture.